I'm Arthur Wagenaar. I'm a composer, a keyboard player. Sometimes I'm a conductor. I'd like to invent my own instruments. I lead rehearsals. Yeah, those kind of stuff. Yeah, musical things, all kinds of. But yeah, like composing and playing, I think I like best. No, I don't have really a particular ritual, actually. I think I have a tendency of postponing the actual work, but it's more of an escape than a ritual. And yeah, often I'm in the middle of different projects at the same time, like some of them in the final stages and some of them just the very first seed in my head and other things in the middle. And so it's not like I have one road to go and I start and then I just go to the finish. So it's all mixed up. And yeah, I think a lot of times the beginning is just a thought, and then it stays in my head for a year or longer. Yeah, so it's more of a gradual build up than that I actually know, okay, I'm starting now. Yeah, this is the setup of a new theater production by Susies Haarlok. Susies Haarlok is the band where I play keys and I'm one of the composers. And we're currently making a production with Veenfabriek in Leiden. And so you see all the instruments and it's going to be a really cool live installation with 4 musicians and an actress on stage. And so right now this is my working space, but when I'm doing another project, it's a complete different setup. So now you see all the keyboards, but in the previous production I was actually a juggler with juggling stuff I created, well, with the group, but yeah, instruments that you play by juggling. And so, yeah, what you see then and what I use is really totally different. And so when I'm not with some kind of theater group or in a fantastic house like this, I'm in my own room, my attic at home, and then it's a bit more crowded. Yeah, but yeah, these are the instruments I usually have also that I use to compose. And so it's a piano, an organ, fingerboard with a really nice 3-dimensional MIDI keyboard. Yeah, and so that's a bit of the usual setup I use. I usually have this sort of L shape so that I can do one instrument here and one there. But sometimes I just need to have them in a row if I have to look at papers or if you have to change quickly. Then it depends. I can move them around. Well, I actually try to leave the computer and the software till late in the process, because I find that when I'm using Sibelius, for instance, yeah, it's easy to use the tricks that Sibelius is good at and use that as composing tools, and they're nice, but they're not necessarily the best for a particular piece. So I actually start on paper with a pencil or on the piano, just playing and seeing. And even before that, there's usually thinking. Like this, there's a theatrical piece. So we have a story and something we wanna tell. So it starts with, what's the message? What are the chapters? Yeah, so we usually think of the larger whole first, and then after that comes the details of which composition is going to be where, and then we actually start to write down notes. But with software-wise, Sibelius to make scores, Logic to try out sounds, sometimes to also create soundscapes and things like that. I used to do a lot with Super Collider, the programming synthesizers and stuff, but lately I'm not doing that so much anymore, and found out that it's not what I'm best at, so I usually work with other people that are better doing that. But I love to have the electronic part there as well. Yeah, so it really depends on what it is. Sometimes it starts with when I'm just doing improv on the piano and I like it, then it starts from there and I see where I get, and then first I just go with the flow, and then at some point my head starts to get involved and it becomes a composition. And sometimes it really starts with talking to a director or reading books for inspiration and coming from there. But yeah, generally composing for me is all about how to translate ideas to sounds. And so the actual writing is maybe on 2/3 of the process, just sort of towards the end. And sometimes when I create my own instruments for a piece, then it begins with that, because I have to start really from scratch, and then you have to first build them and see what you can do with them, and sometimes learn them as well, and then you can compose. For Sounds Like Juggling, we spent, I think, 3 months designing instruments, and then another 2 months practicing on them, and then actually there wasn't even enough time to properly compose. So we sort of stuck with what we found. Actually, the next juggling concert is going to be more of a composition, because I sort of know what the material is now. And so it really depends on how much I have to invent. Yeah, sometimes it's musical ideas, and sometimes it's really more things I see or feel in the world that I want to convey through music. Maybe I can give an example in the piece we're creating here. It's called Groei in Dutch, which means growth. And it's about how everything is connected through growth, or being born and dying, from really the tiniest amino acids till giant galaxies and human beings somewhere in between. And so we thought, how can we make this abstract concept of growth, how can we translate this into composition and into sound? And then I start to think, okay, how can we make growing scales or growing rhythms? So it's sort of abstract thinking of how to take this concept of growth to music. And then sometimes I start playing on the piano and see what happens if I sort of try to start with a seed and make it grow. And sometimes it's really more of a intellectual game or a puzzle, like with rhythms. You can start with quarter notes, 8 notes, tuplets, 16ths. So it's really nice to have this subject, what you use, and then from there on you can try different approaches and different angles. Yeah, I think what I generally do if I'm stuck with one project, I swap to another. Like I said, if I'm in composing and it doesn't work anymore, there's always other projects in really different stages. So if the composing doesn't work anymore, I can go to another project and rehearse, just really use my fingers and not my head, or go to the really beginning of another project and write. I don't know if this is actually good, but it's sort of how I can manage to do it. But I usually have a couple of things in my head, and sometimes I switch. But I wonder, maybe it would be way better to not do this and just wait it out if it's stuck, and then just accept that and try to let new ideas come. But I usually sort of walk away from them. Oh, sometimes even literally, I really love to go outside and walk. The rhythm of walking, I think, is for me really works of sort of getting the ideas. It feels like when I'm in the rhythm of my legs, and then it sort of goes up into the head. I don't know. A lot of ideas, I think, actually come from walking, and there's a danger there because walking has this particular tempo. So you don't want all your compositions to be in the same beats per minute. But for me, it's a really nice way of being both free and in some sort of a flow. Yeah, actually, it's never done. When I look back at a piece, there's always things I want to change, and sometimes I really do that. So generally, I think it's the deadline that decides it has to be done now. So we'll have to make do with whatever I came up with. I'm rarely really happy thinking, okay, it's a masterpiece and this is it. Sign it. No, I'm always just going on, and then that's gonna have to be it. Yeah. But for instance, here I'm playing my own compositions. So we decided at some point, okay, now the composing should be done, because then you never know what you're actually making. So the next stage is rehearsing it and making it work live. But then when I'm composing, there's always sneakily changing things or seeing, okay, I can do this higher, or I can change the sound there. And you find out that the actual sounds of the Hammond organ, there's so many options how to make it sound. And in combination with the drums, and the instrumentation is such a big part. So it's always going on and on and on, actually, until 10 minutes before the premiere. Usually I work with a lot of people from totally different disciplines. So there's a director, there's someone doing the sets and costumes and lights, and those people have a really other way of thinking, and I really love to talk with them and hear what they think from outside the musical perspective. And I really like to ask people from, well, they're inside the project but outside the nerdy music stuff, to hear what they think and how it feels, because sometimes it's a theatrical concept and I have no idea if it actually works. Like, I try to make amino acids and how they copy and how they fold in three-dimensional space to translate this into music, and in my head it all makes sense, but no idea if you hear this. So I really like to ask people, okay, you don't know what it's supposed to be, but what do you think? And that really helps me getting further. And usually they say, yeah, it's nice, but it's a bit complicated. And then, so generally every next step of the composition is actually making it more simple. Yeah, take things out, simpler, and basically the less complex, the better. What I would love to change is to spend more time on actual music and less on office jobs and calling people and writing emails and stuff like that. And of course, it's really part of the game. And actually, the balance is much better than it used to be. So that's very nice. But there is a risk, like when you're stuck or when you're just not sure anymore, to start writing emails. And I think that's really a discipline thing, that you just say to yourself, okay, I'm not doing that right now. I'm in the music now, and if I don't know, you need that time to just let it be empty for a bit. And so I think I could be better in that, to keep the focus and keep the concentration on what I'm doing. And yeah, that's also in the past year where everything is from home, and it's even harder to do that. And then there's kids, but like when I'm here, you spend the whole day rehearsing, and then it's just lovely. So that's the trick, to do that as well when you're at your desk at home. Yeah, well, there's many composers, of course. I've been thinking about that. Yeah, I'd like to name Ferry Heine from the Kift. It's a Dutch group, fantastic band, punk, fanfare band. But they also do these, a bit more contemporary. If you listen to the harmonies and the compositions, they're actually quite deep sometimes, and the singing lines, and so I really love how they combine the really the deepness in the ideas and the richness in the sound with the mentality of the punk band. Yeah, I love that, and also how they use texts and how they combine all these things in such a unique way. That's for me really an inspiration.